Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of MHVR Bytes. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Adam Baldowski, and I'm joined by my other host,
Dr. Jessica Stone, and we are so excited to be here with you guys. I can't wait to have this conversation.
Yay!
So we're joined by Monique Hill, and I did vet this beforehand, Lebo. I even checked it, and I still second guess myself. How are you both doing today?
No, you said it correctly, Adam.
Great.
We're good. We're happy to be here. It's good to see each other as well.
Yeah, I'm also very honored. Exactly. Haven't seen each other in a while, but yes, also feeling fantastic and ready to go.
Definitely an international crowd here. So Adam and I are in different locations in the U.S.
Oh my goodness, I see that.
But Monique, you're in Germany?
Yep.
And Lebo, you're in South Africa? I mean,
Yes,
this is pretty amazing.
That's correct.
The things that we can do with technology.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a hiccup in the beginning, but to connect 4 different places from around the world, I mean, it's not bad.
Really cool.
True.
Well,
really cool.
The person in Colorado was the one who couldn't get in. So, it wasn't even.
Well, to be fair, it was also, I think, the software's fault. I think it was really though.
Yeah, we'll just blame the software. It's okay.
Exactly. Let's just do that.
So Lebo and Monique, could you tell our audience a little bit about yourselves and why and how you're here to talk with us?
What do you think, Lebo? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
No, go for it, Monique.
Oh, so sweet, the youth. So yeah, I am. We are both drama therapists, and Lebo and I met through our University of Witwatersrand, but you can just say Wits. It's probably the easiest. In Johannesburg, when I was supervising Lebo's amazing research, which is part of what brought us to the chapter. But Lebo, you talk about what you do, because I'm just in private practice in Germany. It's same old. But Lebo, you talk a bit about what you do as well, because you do really cool work.
All right, Monique, you're definitely downplaying yourself there, but otherwise, guys. Yeah, I'm Lebogang. As Monique has said, we have met during my master's research, which she was my supervisor. And basically, I wanted to research the application of virtual reality, particularly within drama therapy, right? So what I do is that I currently work at a rehab setting, funny enough. And I also do work on an online capacity where I also incorporate things like online drama therapy and looking at incorporating virtual reality as well within my individual sessions at the rehab. So, it's quite interesting and I'm very excited to be here.
Fantastic. And Monique, you've been part of MHVR since the beginning.
Yes.
So that's been fantastic. And in Lebo, we got in contact because I want to say,
external examiner,
a harsh reviewer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. But Jessica, yes, correct. I mean, the journey that we went through. I mean, it went from me submitting my research and then she was like, I recommend a re-examination. But you know what? It gave me such an opportunity, myself as well as Monique, to really just divulge and just break everything down and, just look at the different components that perhaps could have been refined, which we did. And I mean, right now it's given the opportunity, for example, to have contributed a chapter to your book. So I do believe there was merit to that.
Yes. And it's hard when you don't know the person, right? So you don't know that I'm not just a hard blank. That I really want what's put out there to be of high quality, and you had so much great stuff in there that I wanted you to pull it out even more, and I hope that past the like hard part of having to look at stuff again, that it did feel good to
Jessica, it really brought so much out. I mean,
thank
it
you.
allowed me to really think beyond the surface level. And I believe it went from a place of surface level to just really getting into the meat. So don't worry, you literally brought it out of me. And yeah, I'm actually happy it happened, you know?
Excellent. And of course, then it led to your chapter. Look at that loveliness of your name in the book, both of your names. So I would love to hear
Yes.
everything and anything you want to share about that. And I also am cognizant of the fact that once again, I'm the one talking all the time, and that's not what we're here for. So I want Adam to have something to say, and you guys, and I'm gonna stop talking. Now somebody else has to talk.
Monique, you want to kick it off?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's been such a journey with the book, right? Like it's been quite a while in the writing and in the less of the writing and more in the waiting, which I think is just publishing
Yes.
in general. But it is such a cool thing to be able to look at the chapter and go, I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of the work we did. I'm proud of the fact that drama therapy is seen next to a very technological space, because drama therapists are, and I don't know if I spoke about this last time I was on, but drama therapists are, we are on the stage, under the lights, doing the things, and we tend to stay away from all techie things. So it's just so wonderful to go, no, this is our place. This is where we belong. Embodiment is our thing. Creativity is our thing. And we belong there. So, yeah.
Well, and also with that, you're expanding your stage, right? Like it's
yes, the virtual stage.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And because of how well developed your chapter is and the work that you guys have done in this arena, because of how well developed it all is, it isn't that surface level we were talking about. It is people who are unfamiliar
Mm-hmm.
can read this and say, wow, there is so much power in this work. So I was wondering, Lebo, if you
Mm-hmm.
could give the audience, let's assume there are the majority of people listening who don't know much about drama therapy, never mind drama therapy and virtual reality. So if you could give a little
Yes.
information, I think that would be really helpful.
Nah, most certainly. So, what I usually say about drama therapy, right, is that it offers us an opportunity to use our bodies as a tool of communication. Because if you actually look at some of the factors, for example, in anxiety and depression, but even in trauma related factors, you find that people find it hard to verbalize some of the things that they may be going through or some of the traumas that they've experienced. And therefore, what drama therapy offers is a twofold thing, right? Firstly, we look at, like I said, utilizing the body as a tool of communication, as well as looking at the personal narratives, right? So usually in a session, for example, someone would ask, what is the certain things that you've been through, or what is the diagnosis that we're working with? But with drama therapy, we ask the question of, what is your story? And I believe that that adds such a wonderful kind of platform where someone is actually able to delve deep into some of the events that happened to them in the past, maybe from childhood experiences that may even contribute towards how they think now, how they view the world. And even through that, then in drama therapy, we focus on those specific personal narratives as well as the factors perhaps that may have contributed, particularly the events that contributed towards the mental health battles that someone may be battling with. So that's essentially what I would like to say what drama therapy is in a nutshell.
That's a good
And
pitch. Can you,
yeah,
I need to get that in writing. I'm going to use that.
well, it's little
yes. Amazing.
we'll send you the this
Yeah,
transcription of it. With that understanding
definitely.
of drama therapy, something that comes to mind when I hear that is like, what happens if somebody has stage fright, right? And trying to, like, I'm just thinking like myself, right? Even if I'm in a room with my therapist and they're having me reenact something, I know myself, I'm going to get really shy and maybe not want to do it. Do you find that VR helps kind of break that? Does it give them a space to? I might be jumping the gun, but
no, that's an awesome question. I think that drama therapy in general is an oblique method. So we don't, when we come at the storytelling, we don't have to go what happened. We can also go, tell me a story about something that happened to someone else. And then we take the themes and the metaphors and the creation from that. And VR takes that a step further, that goes, what if no one was watching? Because sometimes in VR, we're not actually, especially if we're doing it in person, I'm not necessarily also in VR with my client. I might be holding the space so that no one punches a wall or falls over their feet. And I'm watching on the computer screen, but the person has that sense of, actually, it's just me. Actually, I'm here, I'm creating. And that can be incredibly freeing. And so, there's something really lovely around that kind of mediated experience. And it doesn't feel like someone's watching over your shoulder, although sometimes you have to be careful and not go, are you fine? And then they're like, because they can't see you. So we walk very heavily to go, I'm over here.
Well, I mean.
And Monique,
oh, no, go ahead, Lebo. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I love that you mentioned that, Monique. And Adam, I also love that question because that's the misconception that a lot of people, especially who aren't familiar with drama therapy, come into the space with, right? They always come with that sense of, okay, I'm not necessarily a performer, so I'm kind of scared about the acting that we're gonna do. And we're just like, no, guys, we're not necessarily aiming for that sense of, a performance as such, but rather the expression that the person can bring, and you find that even the people who may be the most stage frightened, actually come out of their shell so much because now it takes it from a lens of performance into rather this thing of, okay, let me actually play with some of the experiences that I've had, or like Monique said, some of the themes rather that someone can work with, that then it removes that performance element and rather than brings that sense of just come play and come experience, come explore, and let's see what can happen from there.
I love that, and it makes me think of hypnotherapy and that kind of like when people are like, I don't want to cluck like a chicken. It's like, no, that's not what hypnotherapy is.
Yes.
Something here, like I don't want to perform. So as drama therapists, since there is kind of, you mentioned that there's a sort of resistance to technology. How did you both not only just come together, but also within yourselves decide, I want to embrace this. I want to look at VR from a drama therapy perspective, even though we are resistant to this?
I mean, I was always the little odd one out. I was always the person in the MA program that was, when someone couldn't get the PowerPoint working, it was like, Monique, what plug, where, what button? So I consider myself a digital resident, child of the internet. Probably had access to the internet before I should have, and grew up there. And so for me, it was just, I find it much more comfortable to be here. And if I was in person with you, I'd probably be a lot more awkward because this is where I live. And this is how I can control a lot more about how I'm perceived and how I connect with others. So for me, it was, I didn't think drama therapy could be this though. And for me, it was COVID, and it was also traveling. When I said I want to get back to doing drama therapy while I'm not in South Africa, how do I do this? Do you think people would actually come on Zoom with me? And then COVID happened and everyone went, yes, yes, we will. Yes, we have to. And that's when the community for me kind of was dragged a little bit into the online space, and some people loved it and some people left as soon as they could, and that is totally fine. Online therapy is a different thing. And then from there, because I got really excited about it, then I was lucky enough to be the tech person. And anytime there's any student that even remotely likes tech things, they're like, go to Monique, go and chat, which is how I got to Lebo.
How about you, Lebo? How did you get into
Exactly,
all of this?
man. So I basically grew up a form of a gamer, right? And much like Monique, I mean, I would live in the fantasy world. And therefore, I just started experimenting a bit with some of the technology that's available, and familiarizing myself. And I then, funny enough, got to the master stage, right? In which we started looking at how can we transition trauma therapy into the virtual space. And much like Monique said, I mean, COVID happened and we found ourselves then needing to adapt to the context, to the environment, to everything that was happening at that current point in time. And therefore, that's where then I started looking at then that adaptation. And I remember just putting in right my proposal for my master's thesis, and everyone was just like, "Okay, what is this? Why is this person suddenly envisioning the sense of bringing drama therapy with VR, let alone not just technology, not just the online space, but VR?" And that's how Monique got assigned to me because of the research she had done around the online space and drama therapy. And I mean, from there, just it was just a match made from heaven. I mean, we connected right away. We bounced ideas off of each other. We shared the passions, even in gaming. And it really offered us a platform to be able to explore and envision what drama therapy can look like, particularly in the virtual reality space.
What do you think drama therapy in the virtual reality space expands or adds, or like what's it feels like it takes it to another level. It doesn't mean I'm saying one is better than the other. I think there are pros and cons to traditional and
Mhm.
to working in this digital space like this. So what I mean by that is when you're utilizing a digital space, in this case virtual reality, what do
Mhm.
you think are the next level pieces of that?
Mm.
That's a great question.
Monique, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Go
Monique,
for
you
it.
wanna?
You
Nah,
go.
go for it,
No,
Monique.
you go.
Actually.
No, go. You got this.
Okay. So Jess, what I mean by the next level, right? So if you think of drama and what drama usually is, right? It's kind of like an adaptation of reality, right? Utilizing things like imagination, utilizing things like just our creativity overall. So now looking at the virtual space in itself, I mean, that's kind of it's in conjunction with imagination if you think about it, because the virtual space basically offers limitless possibilities. I mean, you're able to take what is in the mind and really place it in that space and look at even exploring around that. So it brings it to the next level through that exploration, because one of the main things, and this is something that we touched on within the chapter in itself, right, is looking at the aspect of embodiment, looking at the aspect of roles, right? Role method and avatars. And if you think about it now, the virtual space is a place of where someone can even recreate themselves or view themselves from that place of their own imagination. And that's something that within drama therapy we call projection, or rather dramatic projection, which is projecting those aspects, how you view yourself onto something else. So now within the virtual space, it's nice that you can bring a visual aspect to it that even other people can see. And I feel that that gives a lot of value because it allows for us to see the other, right? And in seeing the other, it's from my imagination that invites you into my world. And I believe that that in itself is so valuable because it allows for us to just have that time to explore, to play, and just to see, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I
I
love
I
that
love that.
because I do a lot of work with like gender diverse individuals,
Mm,
and something that we talk about a lot is in gaming, building avatars and being able to even test out different personalities or different
Yes.
identities to see what feels good.
yeah.
And so to add that to the drama space, I mean, my understanding of counseling, having work, in my short time in this field, is really everything builds off of each other, right? So these are all just great tools to, I guess, add to our quiver. Is that the right word?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You were speaking my language because some of the things I feel like I talk about all the time is embodiment,
Mm,
immersive,
yes.
identification, representation,
Hmm.
uh, who and how we are in the world, in the space, in the interaction, what it
Mhm.
is that we encompass, what we want to um, do some sort of experiment, like, hey, I want to try this out. I want to
Yeah.
see what it would be like to be this way or interact in this way or respond or whatever it is. That can be very frightening to do out here in the real
Mm.
day-to-day interactions that we have. I just use the word real. I hate it. I hate when I do that. That's not what I meant. Because that means these aren't real, and these are very real. And as a matter of fact, I
Mm.
argue that in some times, places, interactions, whatnot, it can actually be more what we consider real, with air quotes,
Yes, realer
Mm.
than real.
realer
Yes.
than real, because I think, and that's why. So I'm about to do a talk in about 2 weeks at Cedar Sinai in LA, and I'm talking
Mm.
about mental health virtual reality use, and with great power comes great responsibility, and that's my
Mhm.
real focus, to say we're not just putting a headset on and doing something fun. Like, this is, in some ways, it's a beeline to things in our nervous system,
Mhm.
to the way that we process information. It's like, it's bypassing so many of the filters and the stops and all of that, which gives it great power. And so when you can combine that with people like yourselves, who are very knowledgeable and experienced in drama therapy, that combination to me just feels like, on a visceral level, is so powerful, because you really believe you're there, you are interacting, you are going through the process and the steps necessary toward healing, and that's so huge.
I love what you're saying, because when in drama therapy we have a lot of spectrums, um,
Mm.
spiky things, and one of them is around how intense an experience might be. So we're thinking of, if you are playing with an object that is like a projective play kind of thing. So if I'm like going do 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 do, these are my, that is quite distanced, right? Like I can easily tell that it is separate from me. And then we get to maybe costumes, and it's on my body. Now it is something that is, okay, wait, this is me actually trying something on. It's a little bit more difficult to have that distancing and that ability to go, whoa, this is
Mm.
more than I expected. Then you think about something like masks, and masks being incredibly immersive. So when we're
Mm.
in person, offline, we often use masks, and it might fit over your whole head, or it might be a half mask, but there is greater potential for harm, because it's really intense, and people don't, maybe, they need to be aware of how intense it could be. We think, oh, it's just a mask, and you put it on and you go, oh my gosh, I am the character, I am transformed, and kind of coming out of that is intense. And then we go into VR, and not only is it physically worn on the body, and you feel it, and you feel the weight of it,
Mm.
but you look down and that's you. There's
Mm-hmm.
no, okay, I can peep out of the mask and see my actual hand, or I can do, it's like, whoa, it's me. And then it's everywhere I look. There's the immersive environment. There might be other people. So it is an incredible opportunity. I don't know. I know that we all have capacity for imagination, and role play is a beautiful thing, even offline. But in this space, the level of immersion and feeling as if your body is yours, and actually looking into a digital mirror and going,
Mm.
holy moly, that's me. And that's me who
Mm-hmm.
I want to be. And that's who I really wish to look like, or sound like, or be like, or appear, or have the confidence of. I don't actually think we can do that offline in the same way. And it's
Mm-hmm.
incredible, and potentially really
Mm.
scary and harmful. So we need to be trained, and we need to be
Right.
aware. And as practitioners, We need to be able to lead our clients safely in and out of that play space, because it's a lot to wear another person's skin, which I think is, digitally what we're doing.
And sometimes even if it is a accurate representation of how we do see ourselves, we may like that, we may not, we may, whatever those interactions with that depiction as well. I mean, it can go in so many different directions.
Well, it makes me think too that like with all the technology, right now we're talking about the mask, but if you add in like haptic gloves or the haptic vest, like at what point then do we like kind of talking about that realism? Yes, we're inside this device, but it still feels very real. And I think what you're describing, from reading your chapter, is presence, right? Knowing that you're in the space, but that it still feels so real. It doesn't take much to trick our brain. So kind of like the Matrix, at what point what is reality?
Yes, and what I learn in that space, and I think this is, Jessica, maybe what you were also saying, what I learn in that space, I learn in a very different way to what I learn intellectually offline or in another space. It's like directly into my skull and into my psyche. So yeah, it's a really, really powerful tool, which is very exciting and comes with caveats. And we just do it properly.
Yeah, and Monique, I think it's important that you mentioned the aspect of having to be a trained professional who also has done extensive research, because like you said, and Jessica, you mentioned it, right? The aspect of the immersion and how immersed the person gets into that. I believe it's important to lean the person into the process, right? For example, it could happen in a way where within the drama therapy session in itself, right? You start by actually getting into the imaginative aspect first through role play, through role theory and stuff like that, and begin just embodying that aspect and then transitioning slowly, right, into the virtual reality space. Whereas it could be like an exploration for about 15 minutes, maybe in the first two sessions, and then you increase it to like 30 minutes, taking breaks in between as well, so that the person is able to demarcate and differentiate between, like you were saying, right, I'm sorry to use the word, but like the real world and the virtual world. So even in that, it's so important because it offers that opportunity for the person to, and I think this goes into role theory, according to Robert Landy, right? Which is essentially the different roles that a person encompasses and encounters in their lives. And I mean, Adam, like you were saying, right? It's like a quiver, but each arrow is basically a different role that a person encounters in their lives. For example, in our practice, right, we play the role of a therapist, a listener, a confidant. But maybe in our home settings, we play the role of, a father, a mother, someone who is a brother, or someone who is just a partner to someone, right? And it's important then, when looking at the aspect of going into the virtual space, what different roles then is the person able to encounter, able to put on, as you guys were saying, but also to take off, take a moment to reflect, to look at it. And I mean, that just goes into the power once again of VR in being able to record some of the things. You get what I mean? Where the person then is able to come out of the role and look at themselves while they're there, and possibly pick up the similarities or differences between their real self and, once again, just the character or the avatar, whatever they were playing within the virtual space. So with that, like I said in the beginning, it does take some sensitivity when approaching it, because it's important then to have the person still be able to demarcate what is real and what is not, but also then be able then to have that introspective kind of moment where they're like, okay, cool. I see how I was there, and I could feel how it felt within me, in my body, as I was immersed in that. But when I'm out here, I can definitely then kind of see the connections, see some of the things that I have to think about with regards to my own self-perception or my perception of this character that I'm playing. So it's quite interesting as well in that regard.
Sure.
And I imagine also taking on the role, assuming the role, embodying the role of others too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
we talk,
Yes.
I think in general, in psychology, people have a sense of that experience of like, okay, for this interaction, you're going to be your mother and I'm going to
Yes.
be, that reversal kind of a thing.
Yes.
And that's stereotypic.
Yes.
It could be anything and anybody. But when we embody that, then we have a different experience. I mean, Mel Slater out of Spain has done a tremendous amount of amazing work. I've interacted with him. I'm going to meet him in a couple of weeks, and I'm like fangirling all over the place. So
I'm so
excited.
jealous.
I know he's going to be at DMed, so I'm excited. But he's done so much amazing work in people embodying a different role, and then and one of the classic ones is a woman who's sitting by herself. I don't know, you guys have seen this experience, but
Yeah.
sitting by herself, and then there's a group of men who are saying things to her. She's just sitting there minding her own business. And then they have the people change the roles, and some of the men who were doing what we call like cackling are now in that role as the woman.
Yeah.
And experiencing it in a very, very different way than even they imagined it would be. And that's so amazing, powerful. So I can see the power of learning all those things about yourself, but then also assuming the role of a different anything person. I mean, Dr. On has done amazing work in programs embodying animals, and that they had this, I can't remember the percentage now, so I'm sorry, but it was this huge percentage of increase in empathy and understanding for the importance of taking care of the world, of the earth, because of the animals. And it was because they embodied the animals in the environment.
Yes. And this is a cool thing, though, as well. One of the beautiful things about VR in individual drama therapy is that drama therapy traditionally, we could argue, was designed mostly for group work. So we spend a lot of time focused on the group. I never run groups unless they're therapeutic Dungeons and Dragons. That's different. But when I do individual work, I often think, oh my gosh, there's so much that we can't do. Because when we're in groups, we're helping each other embody, and we're like, someone can be director and directing their counterparts. But with VR, now we can actually design the avatars and have them there. We can move them in the space. We can have the sense of being in group, but it's a one-on-one therapy. And I think that opens up really cool examples of access, but also really deepens the work that we would otherwise do one-on-one. It can still be very deep, but there's a difference between having your therapist play your mother and having an avatar play your mother, and it's quite a significant difference. And so I find that fascinating, the idea of bringing in other bodies, but in a really beautiful, confidential way, and in a way that I can still react because I see them literally there, life size in my space. I'm not imagining them. It's not an empty chair. It's a very full chair, and they're right there with me. So it's VR is just so cool.
I again think I'm speaking too much, so I'm trying to stay quiet.
Well, with kind of to piggyback off of that, something that you wrote in your chapter, which I think is important to what you're talking about with the embodiment, but also the training that clinicians need to have, is that understanding not just the tool, but being intentional in how we use it.
Exactly.
Can I quote from the book? I don't want to copyright.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, quoting us? Oh my gosh. Yes, please do.
You're right. It's important to remember that VR is a therapeutic tool that should be used intentionally, and thus requires thoughtful consideration from the therapist and the client to make sure that the client's best interests are being served. This step involves selecting appropriate VR software in applications or apps, matching available apps to the therapeutic goals. How do you, from that VR space, how do you do that? How do you do that with the client? I guess more.
So, to hop on that, Adam, firstly, as with any therapeutic session, what you would need to do is kind of have your assessment sessions, right? So what we recommend within the VRDT model in itself is having, the 1 to 3 sessions with the client, but really offering them and asking them certain things, observing how they respond to certain questions. And it really is in the effective questioning and asking the clients. For example, you can ask things like, how was your experience growing up? You can ask things like, okay, how do you feel, for example, in a room crowded with a lot of people, and that's where you start to assess the type of responses that you get there. And then bring in a tool of empowerment, right? Where you ask the client that, okay, cool. What if we were to create, for example, a virtual environment where you would be on a stage with an audience of people looking at you, and you kind of, get the sense of what the